first came to Oak Island in 1972 to give my old man a hand. I do not believe that I was saved for a reason, no. Are you kidding me? Boogeyman don't want me.
You get what you get. I mean, David is a straight shooter. There's nobody who I would rather call a friend than David Blankenship.
The Curse of Oak Island has captivated millions since it premiered in 2014, turning a small Nova Scotia island into the center of one of television's most famous treasure hunts. For years, brothers Rick and Marty Lagina, alongside historians, researchers, and experts, have searched for answers hidden beneath the island's surface. Their journey has been filled with discoveries, setbacks, and unforgettable moments. But not everyone connected to this story is still here today. What happened to those familiar faces? Stay until the end, because the final person on this list may change everything you thought you knew. Dan Blankenship. If there is one name that is truly inseparable from Oak Island, it is Dan Blankenship. A Florida native who first read about the island's legendary treasure in a January 1965 issue of Reader's Digest, Blankenship became so consumed by the mystery that he uprooted his entire life. He first traveled to the island in 1965 and relocated permanently to Nova Scotia around 1970, devoting more than 50 years to the search for whatever lay buried beneath that unforgiving ground. And this is something you really want to know about him. Blankenship was not only a treasure hunter, he was a World War II veteran who fought through Europe, built a thriving contracting business in Florida, and then walked away from all of it when Oak Island called. He purchased a sizable portion of the island, moved his wife Jane to Nova Scotia, and poured decades of personal savings into a quest most people considered hopeless. His son Dave would grow up on the island beside him, and together they became the most tenacious duo in the island's modern history. He was a cornerstone of the History Channel series from its very first season in 2014, lending the show a credibility that only 5 decades of first-hand experience could produce. The Lagina brothers treated him not as a cast member, but as living history itself. When the cameras caught him on site, viewers saw not an aging man moving carefully, but someone whose mind still churned with unsolved theories after half a century of dedicated searching. But then, tragedy struck in a moment nobody expected. On March 17, 2019, Dan Blankenship passed away peacefully at the age of 95 at South Shore Regional Hospital in Bridgewater, Nova Scotia. The Friends of Oak Island Facebook group announced his passing and described him as a true Oak Island legend whose perseverance, ingenuity, and passion inspired all. A&E Networks released a formal statement expressing the entire production's grief. Dan never found the treasure, but he lived a life that was itself worth far more than gold. While Dan Blankenship's departure was defined by decades of living history, the next person on our list left behind a legacy that will really surprise you. Fred Nolan. Fred Nolan was, in many ways, Dan Blankenship's mirror image. Born in Halifax on July 5, 1927, Nolan became one of the first professional land surveyors in all of Nova Scotia to receive the Provincial Land Surveyor designation. Along with his brother Richard, he established Nolan Brothers Surveys, a firm whose work shaped entire subdivisions across the Halifax region. He was a craftsman in the truest sense, a man who understood land the way artists understand light. Nolan first came to Oak Island in 1958 and spent decades conducting his own independent research, creating extraordinarily detailed maps of the island's terrain. His surveys identified patterns suggesting deliberate, large-scale engineering had taken place centuries before anyone living could remember. He believed those maps held the key to the treasure. But for years, his pursuit was overshadowed by a bitter personal feud with Dan Blankenship, over land ownership and competing theories that kept the two most knowledgeable men on the island from working together. In Season 3 of the show, viewers witnessed what many longtime followers of the Oak Island story had never expected. The two rivals finally setting aside their differences and joining forces with the Lagina team. The knowledge both men brought to those episodes was unlike anything the show had produced before. The reconciliation felt, to fans, like watching history repair itself. Fred Nolan died on June 4, 2016, at the age of 88, before Season 4 even aired. He was survived by his wife Aura, his son Thomas, his brother Frank, 3 nieces, a nephew, and 2 granddaughters. His son Tom later joined the cast in Season 7, carrying his father's connection to the island into a new chapter of the show. The maps Fred Nolan drew continued to guide the investigation long after he was gone. Proof that the work of truly passionate people outlasts the people themselves. Drake Tester. Of all the losses connected to the curse of Oak Island, none is more heartbreaking than the death of Drake Maxwell Tester. He was born on July 17, 2000 in Grand Rapids, Michigan, the son of Craig Tester, Marty Lagina's longtime business partner. Drake appeared in Season 3, working alongside his father and the Lagina brothers at the dig site in Nova Scotia. He spent 6 weeks on the island in 2015 and had been planning to return the following summer. His stepbrother, Jack Begley, Craig's other son through marriage, would go on to become one of the show's most recognizable contributors. But here comes the shocker. Drake Tester had suffered from a seizure disorder since birth, a condition that would typically appear only once every few years and last just minutes. According to reports, the disorder was always present, but rarely dramatic. Until it was not. On March 26, 2017, while with his parents in Florida, Drake suffered a sudden severe epileptic seizure that proved fatal. He was 16 years old. His teachers and classmates at Traverse City Central High School in Michigan remembered him with immense warmth. He was known for his positive attitude, his dedication to the school choir, his commitment to the cross-country team, and his ability to treat every peer with complete equal warmth. The school's choir director described his enthusiasm as truly contagious, noting that he was always 100% engaged and that his presence had a genuinely encouraging effect on everyone around him. The news was broken to the Lagina brothers during the Season 5 premiere, when Craig Tester delivered the devastating announcement via video conference. Executive producer Kevin Burns released a tribute calling Drake a very kind and loving young man who was growing up to be an exceptional human being with limitless potential. Craig Tester later said that returning to Oak Island in the months after Drake's death helped him carry the grief. He said he thought of his son every day. It had been a tough year. It always will be. Don't go anywhere. What you're about to see will absolutely melt your heart. Zena Halpern. Zena Halpern was not a typical television personality. He was New York-based historian and researcher of remarkable dedication. She had spent more than half a century investigating the possibility that Knights Templar had traveled to North America centuries before Columbus, and that their journey had left a permanent mark on Oak Island. Her obsession was not casual. It was filled with the consuming work of decades, pursued with the rigor of someone who genuinely believed she was chasing one of history's greatest suppressed truths. Zena Halpern appeared on the show in Seasons 4 and 5. She was introduced to the team by area researcher Doug Crowell. What she brought with her shocked the entire team. When Zena came to the show, she brought what she believed to be a 14th century map of Oak Island with possible Templar markings, alongside a Nova Scotia document dated 1179 and a cipher she called La Formule. Whether or not the documents were ultimately verified as authentic, her passion and encyclopedic knowledge of medieval history made her one of the most compelling contributors the show has ever featured. In 2017, she published a book laying out her complete findings, cementing her place in the show's mythology. She and Rick Lagina developed a genuine friendship built on shared fascination with the island's secrets. When Halpern passed away in early 2018, she bequeathed her entire research archive, decades of documents, maps, and notes, to Rick Lagina. The team honored her memory by establishing the Oak Island Research Center in her name. Even after her death, her Templar map remained an active point of discussion and investigation well into later seasons. Joyce McGinnis. Few connections to Oak Island's past were as profound as the one carried by the McGinnis sisters. Joan, Jean, and Joyce were direct descendants of Daniel McGinnis, the young man who in 1795 first discovered the mysterious depression in the ground on Oak Island that ignited more than 200 years of obsession. When the sisters appeared together in Season 3, they were not just visiting a television production. They were returning to a piece of their own family's origin story. They brought with them a small cross described as being part of the original Oak Island treasure, an artifact passed down through generations of their family and a physical connection to the man whose curiosity started everything. Their visit collapsed more than 2 centuries of history into a single moment on camera. The Lagina team received them not as guests, but as the closest living link to the very beginning of the mystery they had devoted their lives to solving. Sadly, Joyce McGinnis passed away in 2017. In Season 4, her sisters Joan and Jean returned to the island to inter some of Joyce's ashes in the foundation of what had once been the home of their ancestor, Daniel McGinnis. It was a final homecoming for a woman whose family had been bound to this small island for more than 2 centuries. Her passing and the ceremony that followed reminded viewers that the Oak Island story has never been only about treasure. It has always been about people, families, and the extraordinary threads that connect us across time. But it did not end there. Chris Donna. Chris Donna was not a professional archaeologist, a geologist, or a seasoned treasure hunter. He was a middle school teacher at A. Kingston Middle School in Potsdam, New York. A man who fell so deeply in love with the Oak Island mystery through internet forums and online research communities that he eventually developed his own carefully constructed theories about the island's secrets. Donna had been following discussions about Oak Island long before social media made that kind of community building easy. He was the kind of dedicated enthusiast who cross-referenced historical documents long into the night, building a body of knowledge that rivaled many professionals. His particular area of focus was astronomy, specifically the possibility that celestial alignments could provide geometric clues to the location of whatever was buried on the island. He submitted his ideas to the show's producers in 2016. It was initially filmed but never aired, and was later contacted again, and appeared in a Season 6 episode titled Seismic Matters. For many fans, it was the kind of moment they had been waiting for. An ordinary person with extraordinary insight getting his moment on the stage. Chris Donna died suddenly at home on September 14, 2021, just days before his 55th birthday. No official cause of death was reported. Viewers were reminded of his contribution when the show aired a tribute graphic at the end of a later episode, inscribed simply with the years 1966 and 2021. Fans on social media responded with an outpouring of grief that made clear how meaningful his brief connection to the show had been to the community that loved it. While Donna's death came as a complete shock, the next person on our list faced a fate that many saw coming. Yet there was nothing anyone could do to change it. Stay with us as we reveal that story. Robert Restall Sr. Robert Restall's story is one of the saddest in Oak Island's history. It happened nearly 50 years before the television show, but it became such an important part of the island's legend that the series still refers to it today. Restall was a stunt motorcyclist who performed in shows across North America. But after reading about Oak Island, his life took a different turn. Fascinated by the mystery, he became convinced that a famous pirate's treasure was buried there. Determined to find it, he devoted himself to the search, a decision that would ultimately cost him everything. Starting in 1959, Restall moved his family to Oak Island and spent years conducting exhaustive, methodical excavations, drilling hundreds of boreholes, and developing theories about the island's flood tunnels that were remarkably sophisticated for the era. He operated on a minimal budget, driven purely by conviction. By all accounts, he was making genuine progress. On August 17, 1965, Restall was inspecting a shaft along the island's beach when he was overcome by what researchers believe was poisonous hydrogen sulfide gas that had seeped into the excavation. He lost consciousness and fell into the flooded shaft. His son Robert Jr. rushed in to save him and also fell unconscious. 3 workers then entered in a desperate rescue attempt. Of those 3 men, only 1 emerged alive. Robert Restall Sr., his son, and 2 workers all perished in one devastating afternoon. His death is one of the 6 officially acknowledged fatalities in the history of Oak Island's treasure hunt, the deaths that gave rise to the show's central mythology about the curse. For the Lagina team, the Restall tragedy is never far from their minds. It is a constant reminder that the island has historically demanded a terrible price from those who seek its secrets, and that no amount of passion or preparation can fully guarantee safety. Robert Restall Jr. Robert Restall Jr. deserves to be remembered separately from his father, though they died together, and their fates are forever intertwined. He was just 20 years old when he leaped into that shaft, not out of recklessness, not out of ignorance, but out of the purest instinct a human being can act on. He saw his father fall, and he went in after him. That is what sons do. Robert Jr. had grown up at Oak Island. The island was as much his home as anywhere. He had watched his father plan and dig and sacrifice everything for a dream they both shared. The treasure hunt was not just his father's obsession. It was a family dream built over years of shared labor, long nights, and unshakable belief. He had grown into a young man on that remote Nova Scotia shore, and he died there too, at an age when most people are only beginning to understand what their lives will become. Every time the curse is invoked on the show, and those 6 deaths are recalled on screen, Robert Restall Jr. is among them. He did not die as a treasure hunter. He died as a son. That distinction is the most important thing anyone can say about him, and it is the thing the show has always treated with the gravity it deserves. And now stay with us, because what is coming next will really change how you view the show. Maynard Kaiser. Long before television crews arrived on Oak Island, long before Rick and Marty Lagina began their search, and even before the island became famous around the world, Oak Island was already taking lives. In 1897, Maynard Kaiser was working with an excavation team searching for treasure on the island. One day, he was being lifted out of Shaft 5 when disaster struck. The rope holding his platform suddenly snapped, sending him plunging deep into the shaft below. He died from the fall, and his body was later recovered from the flooded pit. Kaiser's death is one of the 6 officially recorded fatalities connected to the Oak Island treasure hunt. His story is often mentioned as part of the island's famous curse. Unlike many others involved in the search, Kaiser was not a wealthy investor or a treasure hunter chasing a dream. He was simply a laborer doing his job. He came to Oak Island to earn a living, but he ended up paying with his life. More than a century later, his story still remains over the island. Because for every shaft that is dug, Kaiser is remembered. And for every new search for answers, Kaiser's story acts as a reminder of the dangers hidden beneath the surface. Oak Island has never forgotten those who died there. And according to the legend, it may not be finished yet. Maynard Kaiser died in 1897, and today little is remembered about him beyond the tragic accident that took his life. But the final person on our list is even more mysterious. We do not know their name, and we know almost nothing about them. Yet their story may be the most important of all. So, stay with us, because this final person would change the entire mystery of Oak Island. The unknown worker. The very first death associated with Oak Island's treasure hunt is also the most anonymous. A nameless laborer killed in 1861 when the Oak Island Association attempted to drain floodwater from their excavations using a mechanical pump that malfunctioned catastrophically and exploded, killing the worker instantly. He was the first. What makes everything shocking is that nobody recorded his name. Neither did anybody write down where he came from. Nothing was known about the language he spoke, what he hoped to buy with the wages from this job, or who mourned him when news arrived. He is remembered only as the first in a long line of people drawn to this island by the promise of what lay beneath it, and who paid a price they never imagined when they took the work. The show acknowledges this death as the starting point of the curse. The unnamed man who began the count, that legend says, will end only when 7 lives have been lost. His anonymity is itself a kind of tragedy. While treasure hunters like Blankenship and Nolan became well known, while researchers like Zena Halpern earned recognition for their scholarship, this man died in service of someone else's ambition and was not even granted the dignity of a recorded name. In a show that honors the memories of those who contributed to the Oak Island story, his absence from the record stands as the most sobering reminder of all. It shows us how history treats the lives of ordinary workers, and it shows us how much has been sacrificed on this small, mysterious island over the course of more than 200 years of unrelenting searching. What do you think about these emotional stories behind some of Oak Island's most unforgettable faces? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And do not forget to like, share, and subscribe for more untold stories about your favorite television shows and personalities. Click on the next video showing on your screen right now. You definitely do not want to miss it.